Hi, fifth graders. Welcome back to Persuasive Writing, Session 11. Today we will be writing body paragraph number 1. So have you ever had a piece of cake that just had way too much frosting or not enough frosting and the balance was just way off? Sometimes when you have not enough frosting, the cake tends to crumble apart, and sometimes when you have way too much frosting, you just get all this sugary mess and not enough cake. So the key to having a perfect piece of cake is finding balance between the right amount of cake and the right amount of frosting. Well, we're going to think of our papers or our body paragraphs like a piece of cake. So we need just the right amount of cake and just the right amount of icing. Well, I want you to think about your cake as your evidence. So you're going to have evidence that is going to make up the meat of your paragraph, or these solid layers, okay? Then you're going to have some icing in between there, and that's going to be your own thinking and explanations when you're unpacking those quotes. So we need to come up with just the right amount of your own thoughts to hold that evidence together, okay? So you need to be thinking about how are you going to balance the evidence and your thinking so that you have a good ratio throughout your body paragraphs. You don't want too much or not enough of just one of them. So what evidence are you going to paraphrase? Well, what do I mean by that? A direct quote is when you copy the information word for word from the original author. So if you copy and paste what they said and put it in quotation marks, that's a direct quote. If you are paraphrasing, it means that you're summarizing the information in your own words. You want to be using your own voice, especially when you write to think. So what I mean by that is, this is your paper. This should be written in your words. Granted, it is necessary that you include some quotes here and there, some direct quotes, so that you are quoting specific evidence or maybe a data point or a statistic. That's perfectly fine. But you don't want the majority of your paper to be somebody else's words, okay? You want it to sound like your voice because it is your paper. So you need to also be mindful of the length of your quotes. You should not have huge chunks of somebody else's words, okay? So if you're including a quote and you find that it's pretty long, typically if it's more than one sentence, or even if it's a really lengthy sentence, you want to condense that. Figure out what is the most important piece of information that I'm taking from this quote and only focus on that, okay? You don't need all that extra wordiness. Focus on what is important from this piece of evidence and what do I need to include in my paper. How can I put it in my own words? And you'll see an example of that as I'm writing my own. So here are some phrases that set up quotations. You have seen these in your informational paper as well. There may be some different ones on here, and I'll be posting this along with the next anchor chart for you to take a look at as you're writing. So these are some sentence starters to use when you are citing your sources. Remember, you need to be citing your sources whenever you're using information that you researched or got from somewhere else that is not your own. You need to cite your sources. So according to the text in the article, research shows, evidence suggests, based on the article, and you want to be citing where you got your information from. So these are some examples of sentence starters. Now, remember, your thoughts are the frosting that binds the cake together. So without your thoughts, the cake is going to crumble. You need to have your own thoughts in there as well. This is what I'm talking about when I say write to think or unpack your evidence. So some questions you can ask yourself, and we've gone over these in the past, is why did I include this evidence? How does this relate back to my claim? What makes this particular quote or statistic so important? And how is this evidence changing my thinking? Those are all questions that you can use to ask yourself when you are trying to figure out how to unpack your evidence and include your own thoughts. So let's take a look at what you're going to be needing open for today. So you will be needing, first off, your outline. You will need your boxes and bullets and your sloppy copy, okay? So first I'm going to look at my outline because I'm starting my first body paragraph and I need to figure out which reason I'm starting with. Well, I said I was going to start with the fact that sports help build strong social skills. So what you can do is just copy and paste your topic sentence right onto your sloppy copy. Remember, you want to start with an indent for your new paragraph. So this is the first sentence, the topic sentence of my paragraph. It's letting my reader know what my first reason is. So now I have to include the evidence that shows that sports help build strong social skills. So that's when I'm going to go back to my boxes and bullets and look at my evidence. Well, I said sports teams place children in a diverse range of social situations. In order to be successful as a team, they must communicate on and off the field. Well, I kind of want to put that in my own words because that's a little bit lengthy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my link and I'm going to open it up, and when I open it up, it takes me to this article. So this is why you need to have your sources listed so that you can reference using these sentence starters, okay? So I'm going to say, according to the article, well, I don't want to just put the URL in there because that's not the title of the article. I need to look at the title of the article. The title is, Do Team Sports Help Kids Develop Social Skills? So I'm going to go back to my paper and say, according to the article, remember we put a comma after that phrase, start with the quotations, do team sports help kids build social skills? Okay, so comma, quotation after the title of an article. Notice I capitalized the first letter in each word because it's a title. Now, what did I say? Well, essentially what I'm saying is that they must communicate on and off the field in a wide variety of social situations. So, according to the article, do team sports help kids build social skills? Kids who play team sports must communicate on and off the field in a wide variety of social situations. Okay, so I've taken what they said and I've paraphrased it and I've put it in my own words. Now what I want you to do as you're writing is I want you to go through and highlight your sentence starters. So I'm going to highlight according to the article because that is my sentence starter. So I want you to highlight every time you include a piece of evidence, you should have 3 highlighted in your paragraph because you have 3 pieces of evidence. So you should have 3 sentence starters. So now I have to unpack this quote, and I ask myself, why did I include this? Why is this information important? Well, I'm going to go back to my boxes and bullets, and I've already written to think. So if you like what you wrote for writing to think, you can go ahead and copy and paste that because you have already unpacked that quote. Oops, I want to paste without formatting. In order to have strong social skills, you need to be able to adapt to your surroundings and communicate with different groups of people. This proves that being on a team will help kids build the skills they need in order to do so. So I've unpacked that quote already. If you find that you don't really like what you wrote in your writing to think, that is perfectly fine. You can change that, you can add it, you can reintroduce this quote and explain it a little bit better if you need to. So now I'm going to look at my second piece of evidence. Team sports teach children to have respect for the rules of the game, their coaches, their leaders, and teammates. Well, this is pretty short, so I think I'm going to take a direct quote from this. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm just going to paste this right in here. But first I need to figure out what source this was. Well, I noticed that these 2 are from the same article, so I'm going to say also stated in this article, I'm going to paste what I just copied and pasted because that is the direct quote. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Paste without formatting. Also stated in this article, team sports teach children to have respect for the rules of the game, their coaches, leaders, and their teammates. Okay, well, now I have to highlight my sentence starter, also stated in this article. And I have to unpack this quote. Why did I say this? What does this have to do with my quote? Well, I'm going to go back to my boxes and bullets if I can find it. I already wrote that in order to communicate effectively and have strong social skills, kids need to be respectful to those they are communicating with. So this is showing that by being on a team sport, they're learning to have respect for those that they're communicating with. Okay. Now, going back to my outline, I have my topic sentence. I have evidence number 1. I've unpacked that evidence. I have evidence number 2. I unpacked that evidence. Now I have to come up with evidence number 3 and unpack that as well. So I'm going to go back to my boxes and bullets, and I see that my third piece of evidence is pretty lengthy, so I'm going to paraphrase that. So I'm reading through, and I have to identify what I want to include the most out of this, what's most important. I see that kids get a sense of belongingness, and that it helps them in the future with their careers to build strong relationships. So that's what I'm going to paraphrase. Now again, I've opened this article by copying and pasting this link into a new tab, and it's called Developing Good Communication Skills Through Sports. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, as mentioned in the article, developing good communication skills through sports. Comma, quotation. Sports give kids a sense of belongingness and help them build strong relationships in their future careers. Okay, so that is the most important part of what I read in that quote. That is what I want to highlight. So I'm going to get rid of all that other wordiness. I don't need that. I've already unpacked this. This shows that being on a team provides kids with the tools that they may need in order to effectively communicate in the future. The sense of belongingness gives kids the confidence to socialize in their teams. So I really like what I wrote already for that, so I'm just going to copy and paste that. Again, if you don't like what you wrote for that, you may ask yourself, why is this quote important, and rewrite your writing to think. You're unpacking that evidence just like you did in your informational writing, so you already have experience with this. Now, I've included my evidence number 3 and unpacked it. But I see that I need a closing sentence. I need to wrap up this paragraph in this idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this up and say, as you can see, team sports are highly effective in teaching kids the social skills they will need throughout their lives. And I'm going to insert my own little voice and put in some humor. I'm going to say, I don't know about you, but I would love to, how am I going to word this? I don't know about you, but I would love to have designated time to socialize with kids my own age. Okay, so that's my own thought in there. I don't know about you, but I would love to have designated time to socialize with kids my own age. So I'm adding in my own personality and my own voice, okay? We want to also hear your personality. Let it shine through. If you like to make jokes, if you like to be funny, let that shine through in your paper. Include your own personality and your own voice in there as well. So I need to go through and make sure I highlighted my third sentence starter. And now I have my first body paragraph. I've started with my topic sentence, my reason. I have one piece of evidence, I unpacked it. I have my second piece of evidence, I unpacked it. I have my third piece of evidence, I unpacked it. And then I have my closing sentence, okay? So those are the components you should have. And if you get lost throughout, you can always go back to your outline and make sure that you've included each of these components. That's essentially what your paragraph should look like, okay? So our body paragraphs are going to go like this, okay? Again, use your boxes and bullets to guide you through it. If you don't like your writing to think what you wrote, you can always go back and ask yourself, why did I include this piece of evidence, and reword it so that it's more effective to your reader. And that is it for today. So you're just working on body paragraph number 1. Please do not go ahead to body paragraph number 2 because we will be talking about some more valuable skills in our next lesson as well. Okay, let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.